steering wheel. Loves the steering wheel, yeah. Give him steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on! Whoa!
Your leg, can I please? Your leg hip.
How the f*** is that possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? Number radio. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track. Down that mistake.
I'm so annoyed. Boys and girls, your attention, please.
Hello and welcome back inside the Park from April podcast number 967, the Qatar Grand Prix review. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
A.K.A. Negative Camera. You know what we do on race weekends.
We watch one, then we talk about it. Then we watch one, then we talk about it. Come on, Todd.
Why wouldn't we talk about it? But before talking about it, I got to introduce my guest. You know what that means.
Ripped from out of the wasteland. He's bad, he's beautiful, he's crazy.
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Charsley, the International.
It's Paul Charsley, the International, the sporting manager of the Heart of Racing Aston Martin Racing Team and IMSA and WEC. Did I get all that out?
That's right. Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful.
Although, technically, the sporting manager of the IMSA team.
IMSA team, yeah.
Not the WEC team.
But I know you. You get your fingers in the WEC thing. You help wherever you can.
Oh, yeah.
You're that kind of guy.
A lot of to and fro between the two teams. But
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Because you're a helpful kind of guy.
I try to be.
You want the whole team to be successful in WEC and IMSA and SRO.
Winning is nice.
You're a caring guy.
Yes.
I know that about you.
Yes.
Hey, Paul, I don't know what race you watched over the weekend. I jumped online. It was Thanksgiving weekend over here, and a lot of people are out of town, including me. And good grief, I went on the socials, and apparently there was a little bit of controversy this weekend.
So I hear. Yeah.
And leaving Lando to say,
Oh, Jesus.
like, what? What just happened?
Yeah, there was another soundbite I was trying to think. I can't remember. What did I say? I sent it to you in the text. I can't remember what it was now, honestly. Who made it sound? Was it Carlos?
Was it Carlos?
Who gets a penalty?
Carlos. One of my favorites is this, though.
Which internet is this? Hello?
Hello,
it's my stapler. Yeah, it was Carlos even when he was like, "Oh no, my left front."
Yeah.
Like, oh no, it's understeering. Oh,
Yeah.
Carlos, I'm so sorry.
I know. So sorry about that, Carlos.
Yeah.
It's
He was like in a
gosh.
panic.
No, he's a seasoned veteran.
Yeah.
Is said Carlos Sainz Jr. Paul, it's a shame because it could have all come down to this race for Lando, but
Should have.
your man Oscar, man, he hit the ground running this weekend. Man, looked dominant all weekend. Practice, sprint, he looked terrific. This is like the Oscar of old, and it was great to see. If I'm honest. See him bounce back, put the bit between the teeth, and he was dominant all weekend. Meanwhile, Lando was thereabouts, and then Max really struggling in practice and getting the car set up.
Yep.
And first it was bouncing, there was balance issues and all kinds of struggles in the sprint race. Just kind of limped it home. Didn't qualify great for the sprint. Tough weekend for Max. So on the surface of it, you would go into this thinking, well, look, Lucelle, this is a track. I think most people, the conventional wisdom here is the track layout itself, medium and high speed corners certainly would flatter that McLaren chassis, and I think most people felt like the final two races next weekend as well would flatter that McLaren. And so here you have McLaren doing real well at this type of track, kind of purpose built for them. You've got Max struggling, and you thought, oh man, Oscar comes out of that sprint looking great, closing that gap down a little bit, and you're thinking, well, this is going to be good. And then Lando's thereabouts, second place, qualifying for the race. Could be him. He wins this sucker. It's all over. But then a couple of the curveballs. Yeah, but no. A couple of the curveballs at this is they have this mandatory 25 lap maximum per stint, which kind of, on the surface of it, heading into this weekend, I thought, well, that kind of neuters the strategy a little bit. Everybody knows what everybody's going to do at this point. It's 25 max, and you could get creative and those kind of things, which they ultimately did. Worked a treat for Red Bull and everybody else. So that was a bit of a curveball. And then the DRS just isn't really that powerful around here. And it's really good for setting up DRS trains, which it did. And I don't know, before we jump into the teams and we start reviewing them, it looks like to me, Paul, that from a driver's perspective, it would be a really fun track to drive because of the speed and the corners. I kind of get the impression it kind of lends itself more for a MotoGP race than it does F1, if I'm honest, because at home, you don't feel or really get that sensation. And the sprint was kind of a ho-hum affair.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, every racing driver likes to go fast, right? They like fast corners. They don't like piddly corners. They don't like the tight chicanes that double up on themselves. And I always used to like street circuits if it was the right one because you got so close to the walls, the sensation of speed was high. Yeah. In a Formula One car, the sensation of speed is high, and it is high.
Right.
And the long flowing corners. I mean, that's exactly what they love to do. Is they're pulling 5Gs through the corners, but they love driving the track, but they don't love driving the track behind somebody else.
Yeah. Sure.
The aero. As much as these rules were supposed to combat that, they didn't really end up combating it enough, right?
Right.
With the ground effect cars and all that kind of stuff. And so still the cars are heavily affected, certainly medium, high speed corners that flow from left to right to left to right. You're just never going to get yourself be able to set up. You need long braking zones. You need a tight turn to kind of mix things up a bit. Maybe that's something they need to look at. Obviously, this track was designed to be a MotoGP track. And so it does lay out well for that type of vehicle. But for a Formula One car, I think they maybe need to think about reprofiling a couple of corners. But some of these corners I do like, the turn one, a couple of the other turns where they got some extra camber in different places, which mixes up a little bit, kind of remind me like turn one at Zandvoort, camber. Yeah, camber changes a lot of things, and so I think maybe there's some, even if they don't reprofile a corner, maybe they could think about playing around with the camber in the corners a little bit. But when you have a long, fast turn leading onto a main straight, it's always going to be hard for DRS to even have its impact. And I think it was one more race to go before there's no DRS.
Yeah,
are we gonna? That's what they say. I don't believe them. Because they said that before when they were going to bring out the ground effect cars.
Right.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I said an individual driver's track, absolutely. A racetrack for good racing, no.
Yeah, not as much. Didn't mean I didn't enjoy it, and certainly McLaren made a lot of fun. But
I mean, it was fun to watch the cars on the knife edge, though, and we saw some.
It was,
they were on the knife edge, and all of a sudden they weren't.
Yeah, right.
So you knew when those moments came up how much they were living on that edge, though. So
certainly Alonso was, right?
Certainly Alonso was.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Let's jump in. I jumped online, and which is I should never do, and it's
don't do it, kids.
I know. Give it up by not taking it up. It's a bad habit. I shouldn't have. It's because you get on, and the throng of influencers now in F1. I'm not sure quite.
Don't get me started.
I know. I don't know that I quite understand why all the aggro. Everybody's on. Oh my gosh, and it's so over the top,
so
amplified.
Much anger. Yeah,
it's just really you've been watching since season 1 of Drive to Survive, and you're just outraged. Really? Are you? Are you new to F1? Come on, man.
I don't know. Do you follow Jenny Gow at all?
Not as much.
Yeah. Yeah, well, she does the the bullpen thing, and someone hassled her because she was interviewing Lewis, and I guess she wasn't like attacking Lewis for why he's doing crap and all this and that, and it's like, come on, people, what are you doing?
Yeah, come on, man.
They're just sports people they had a bad day,
Yeah, right. Right.
They're not up for manslaughter or anything.
I know. It's like everything's
struggling with their car.
Everything's got to be rage bait, or nobody will watch it.
That's true. It is true. Yeah.
It's just silliness. Grace, long-suffering McLaren fan, could tell you that McLaren. She fully resigned herself years ago that McLaren, any chance they have to shoot their own foot, they will,
Yeah.
It's just ingrained in the DNA over there from the Ron era, But anyway, so you're not going to get a bunch of aggro here. We're just going to talk about it as it unfolded and what happened, and where we thought they may have did it right and did it wrong, and I'm not going to drag people through the mud and all that kind of stuff. It's just not how we roll. Let's start off with Red Bull, but I don't want to get into McLaren's strategies so much under the Red Bull review. We'll just wait till we get to McLaren to do that. So let's just talk about Max in general. He had P1, Yuki Tsunoda in P10. Max had a slightly better start passing Lando in turn 1. Seemed like he would at best. At that point, I'm watching this. Okay, so got ahead of Lando. Lando running P3. I was thinking, Max, even though he's not as fast as the McLarens, and we know that, he could play a spoiler, though, in Lando's race, running in P2, and he's not easy to get around. We know that. And he's gunning, and he's never going to let up, right? So I was thinking, given the struggles he had all weekend, could he hold on to P2 and deny Lando, the victory this weekend? And how innocent I was at the beginning thinking like this.
They were wonderful times back then.
They were wonderful times when it was so optimistic. I know about Max maybe holding on to P2 and Lando full of hope that it would be a pedestrian race and fun to watch Lando and Max. Little did I know. With a 57-lap race and 25-lap max per set, the normal two-stop layout, if you don't stop under the early safety car, which everyone but McLaren did, it would be something like, go run 18 laps, then box, run 20 laps, and then 19, something around there, would have been kind of in the pocket, in the window. You could have went 25 or whatever, but but those would have been 2 full price pit stops at racing speed, right?
Right.
And that would have been normal. But pitting on or boxing on lap 7 under the safety car, this lets you do 7 laps on the first set and then 25 and 25, right? So, a simple calculator, you could have just pulled your iPhone out and calculated that one. And so with your first stop massively discounted too, it's not a full price pit stop. You get a huge discount. Effectively, Max had, I think, give or take a few seconds, I think it was effectively a free pit stop and in hand over McLaren's, and Verstappen, Paul, never was in a position that he had to overtake on equal terms. And they had a faster car, but he was never really forced to have to deal with that, that faster car, and was stuck, trying to erase. They were stuck trying to erase this huge deficit, but there wasn't enough tire delta to really do it, and they probably overestimated. But we'll get into that in a minute. The degradation was lower, especially on the hards, and that was interesting to Max. And you and I were texting back and forth about the hards. That was interesting choices, but Max's hards on from lap 32 onwards really held up well, so well that Piastri's newer tires gave him almost. At most maybe 2-3 tenths per lap, maybe nowhere near the second a lap that he was going to need.
Right, that you need to make a pass. Yeah.
To make a pass, right? So the degradation wasn't as bad on Max's hard for sure, and the tire compound delta wasn't as great as perhaps McLaren thought. So their whole sort of we'll just drive away and be flexible later kind of concept. You kind of heard that from the McLaren wall was, Lando, I think, said, well, maybe we should have followed him in. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, you should have. But he said, well, they're boxing early and they're going to have flexible. I think they were banking on we would just drive away, gap them, and have more flexibility in. So, with all the best will in the world, that's the way it was. But having said all that, Max, as you've said 1,000 times, you got to be there to win it. You got to be there to take advantage of it. You have to be in the mix, and he always is. And he was there. He drove a great race. And I would argue probably the team and he got quite a bit more out of that car on Sunday than what they had on Saturday for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he was struggling big time, bouncing. You know, he definitely was never comfortable in that car the whole weekend. Even in the first part of the race, right? He was still complaining about it. And they had the sprint and all that kind of stuff. So there's probably more of a satisfying win for them than some others because of the struggles they had. They didn't just kind of roll off the truck and just kind of destroy the competition the whole time. They were in a heap of hurt. Luckily, still had some buffer behind them where they were still ahead, although the Mercedes could have been a spoiler too, ended up not being quite the case. So, you know, Max to his fullest, you know, getting a great qualifying, you know, maybe once again flattering where the car should be probably.
Yeah.
Then getting a fantastic start, using all his psychology even before the race. And I've talked about that many times about how you set the psychology of how you race against people, not by the minute, but by the season. And, you know, some of the back and forths before they kind of got in, you know, had to have got in Lando's head where Max is like, well, I got nothing to lose. I'm just going to go for it. You know, that has to play into his mind and should. And so Max got the upper hand, got ahead, was able to really benefit from obviously the pit stop. And then he didn't really have to push so hard, so he could protect his tires. He just let the race just evolve at that point. As long as he didn't make a mistake, you know, he could underdrive that car a little bit and still have a considerable cushion, which he ended up having at the end. And I think McLaren made it a bit easier by the tire choice, but I was a bit, you know, a bit upset about that. I thought they could have unleashed it a little bit, but conservative tire choice there for the last stint made it pretty easy for Max to just kind of play the race out. So another fantastic deal for Max, and puts him in, you know, with a shot of a championship that seemed so far away not very long ago.
I know.
Yeah, it's insane.
You and I were texting back and forth during the race. I was a little surprised, given where McLaren ended up finding themselves, that they chose to go on hards for that final stint.
Yeah.
I kind of thought maybe they'd gamble, roll the dice, and go softs or something.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't
maybe
get
the
really
delta
good
just wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they know something we don't. We didn't get a good look in on anyone who had the softs, because who had the softs? Lewis and
Hülkenberg started on softs. That's what enabled him to try to make the pass on Gasly. And then late in the race, switching to soft. Was it Lance on softs? No, he retired.
Last went to softs, but he retired. I think Gasly went to softs, but his car was damaged. So there wasn't a lot of good data from. I mean,
true.
Lance being on softs, I'm not sure what that meant, but sorry, but it's. Yeah, I don't think they had a good enough data to see if someone had run a really long run. Because I said, I think Lewis and Hülkenberg started on softs. If they hadn't been the yellow, they would have had a chance to see, you know, how long those softs would have held up.
Right. Right.
So I guess
some of those two you mentioned, and then Ocon and somebody else started on hards.
Hards.
You know,
I think
that sort of gambit was a little bit spoiled with that safety car too, because it kind of forced them off of whatever strategy they were trying to do. You know?
Right, exactly.
But you're limited at 25 lap maximum anyway. There's not a whole lot of creative room there.
No, I think on McLaren's side, that, you know, their whole demeanor has been conservative recently. So that's another conservative move, right?
Yeah, right. Max said, quote, "I feel great. I'm really proud of that one. We made the right call as a team there to box. It was definitely what made us win the race today, as I felt like we were not on the same level as McLaren in terms of pace," end quote. And kind of to your point and my point combined is that because of the way that it panned out, you know, Max never really had to fight hammer and tong on equal footing on the same strategy and try to either pass and beat McLaren's outright pace or defend and hold off McLaren's outright pace. He just never really had to do that. To your point, I think he finished 7 seconds and change ahead of everybody.
Right.
So yeah.
Yep.
So good race for him. You'd expect it. If there's the slightest opportunity, Max and team is going to pounce for sure. Yuki, the Yuke battled from the back to hover near the points, and then when Hadjar had that cut tire a couple laps from the end, Yuki managed to nab a point, ends up in P10. So not a terrible race. Did pretty well on Saturday too in the sprint.
Yep.
Which is probably going to lead Helmut Marko to say,
goodbye, good luck, and good riddance.
there you go.
I'm thinking he is.
Yeah.
The big announcement on Tuesday. What happens to Yuki?
Yeah, right. So that's Red Bull. Oh, and Helmut, I guess after the race, Red Bull stirred some stuff up with GP making some comments, and Helmut in the press suggesting that Kimi Antonelli pulled a Timo Glock, and unfortunately for Kimi, they were saying he just kind of helped Lando by, and that made Toto angry, and you don't want to make Toto angry because then Toto gets mad. Toto's mad, Susie gets mad, MBS gets mad, and then George gets mad.
That's right.
It's not a cascade you want. But anyway, I think Red Bull
throws those headphones down.
Oh yeah.
He marches right over to Helmut.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think Red Bull walked it back in a presser today and said, "Hey, sorry about that. We're sorry that Kimi changed his social media just to a black circle. He's taking all kinds of hate." And I was thinking, all right, somebody give Kimi Timo Glock's number. Timo can walk you through how to handle the storm after Brazil. So anyway,
it did look fishy to me in the beginning. I went back and watched both.
Did you?
Both passes by the McLaren with Kimi riding. That guy never speaks.
Yeah,
Kimi doesn't say a word.
Huh.
There's a lot of information from the pit lane, but rarely a retort back from Kimi, even after the two passes.
Interesting.
So it's I have to listen in more. My thought is that Kimi's pretty much working at 100%, just keeping the car on the track and driving fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's new. He's up against some very stiff competition. Yeah, I think he has to fully focus. He doesn't have the extra 10% that Max does or some of the others do.
Yeah.
So,
Paul, I think I'd rather have that though than the mind vomit you get from Hadjar or Yuki.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, Hadjar is a good driver, but that guy is
I'm not liking
rubbing
that.
me wrong.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't know what happens in the debriefs. Do they ever talk about those things? I know I would be if it was in our team. It's like, but I don't know what those guys say or don't say.
Imagine if Roman got on your radio and started chewing all your asses about what you're doing. You guys are idiots. What's going on? You'd have a quiet conversation with Roman, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not the way to behave, is it? It's not the way to rally a team behind you. You never saw or heard Schumacher saying that stuff.
No.
I mean, it's just not, even no matter how talented you are,
right?
You've still got to have stability and decorum and be, to keep flourishing in the sport.
Yeah.
You need the team to be behind you. You don't want to be, well, I'm quick so I can get to say what you want. No, not really. There's a lot of quick people out there. You start rubbing people the wrong way, things aren't going to go your way very often.
People get tired of that pretty quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll get to an hour to McLaren. Lando Norris P4, Oscar Piastri P3. Lando lost a spot to Max, as I mentioned, at turn 1. But then all hell broke loose.
You said Piastri was P3. It's P2.
Oh, did I say P3? P2. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
He lost spot to Max, turn 1, and then all hell broke loose on lap 7. So I'm not going to go through and talk about the race. I'm going to just talk about, in my opinion, my humble opinion, what some of the options should have been for McLaren. Okay. All right? Just correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was thinking because Oscar's leading and Lando's behind Max, run third, and I thought, okay, here we go, safety car. I saw Hülkenberg spin. I thought, okay, safety car is going to come out, and they're going to double stack. I even texted you because it looked like Lando was backing up for a double stack, to give a little space so they could double stack. So I thought that's what they were going to do. Piastri almost certainly keeps the lead in that case, or worse, drops into much more manageable traffic. Yeah. But with better pace than Max, right? Norris maybe loses a position or two, but still the same tire offset strategy as Max, right? And you preserve the likely P1 for Oscar, more than likely, and keep your championship leader in the fight in the correct strategy tree, right? Mm-hmm. If they'd have boxed and double stacked. Or what I probably would have chosen is to split the cars. And I would have prioritized Lando because he's leading the championship. And that's, in my opinion, what they should have done. I would have had Lando just shadow Max. If whatever Max does, if Max goes in the pits, you box, right? So pit Norris with Verstappen, leave Piastri out, or vice versa. But anyway, pit one. And at least one McLaren is covered strategically against its main rival in that case. And I probably would have chosen Lando because he's leading the championship. I don't know. What should they have done? Probably pit Piastri and Norris double stacking. You absorb a few seconds for the delay for Lando, but gain a heavily discounted stop, right? It's not a full price stop. With McLaren's pit crew level, that's a manageable loss compared to the full 25-second green flag stop. If you ran and boxed and did the 7:32:57 split pattern like everybody else did, even after the safety car, Piastri is still effectively in control of the race. Verstappen has no extra free stop advantage at that point. He has to beat them on track by overtaking and defending at that point. You use the pace of the car. Piastri was clearly faster. He was all weekend. You either let him go or swap him later, depending on what orders you want to instill. And if Norris is within range, in my mind, if Norris is within range of sealing the title on track, you could back Piastri off a little bit and strategically protect him from, to close the deal. And yet, Zach, for the race or whatever, was saying, well, hey, you're going racing. That's not how we race. And, I'd rather Max beat both my drivers by 1 point than to compromise and favor one or the other. And that's how we go. And in my mind, we're seeing the exact opposite. So the Schumacher era of team orders to the extreme, and we saw that impact. And I feel like we're on the exact opposite extreme of not doing some team orders to close the deal. We're at the exact opposite extreme of the pendulum swing on that concept in my mind. I don't know. How did you see it with Lando in particular?
Well, with Lando in particular, or with the championship run? I mean, obviously.
Well, you can do both.
Let's go to the pit stop. So hardest thing to do is be the leader coming around for a pit stop for strategy. Because everyone can react to what you do and do something different, and you can brief the driver, follow him in, do the opposite. You have to make the first move. Normally, that might have been an issue, except for the fact that we had these mandated pit stops.
Right.
And that kind of draw the conclusion that it's obvious if as soon as that lap 7 went away, that the pit stop window was open to do it in those two stops. Then it's not like they don't talk about it before the race. It's not like everyone goes in the race, well, let's see how this is going to pan out. I mean,
wonder how we'll do today.
Wonder how we'll do. You make infinite amount of scenarios of what you'd want to do if this happens, if that happens. And knowing that you had the windows, you had to have known, okay, if there's a yellow flag, if there's a full course yellow within the first 8 laps, what are we going to do?
Right.
Obvious thing would
box.
be we pit. We box.
Yeah.
Because that eliminates it. I mean, I don't understand how they made that. They had plenty of time.
Right.
It wasn't like, it's like, oh, you got to make a split second. You know, you're coming around the last turn. What do we do? What do we do? Everyone had plenty of time to make the choice. The choice should have been made before the race even started.
Right.
So I don't understand. I think the obvious choice is to double stack them, and obviously you being a Ferrari fan from the Schumacher area, you're perfectly fine with someone absolutely being chosen very early.
For sure.
It's just not going to work with McLaren. They're not going to do it that way, because they want to keep both their drivers. They've got very good drivers in there. As soon as they if they'd have made a decision, let's just say, to give Norris the advantage because he's leading the championship.
Yeah,
and because
Piastri's
they want
gone.
to beat Max. Piastri is gone. He's gone mentally. He may not be gone that year, but he's already fishing around. We know he doesn't. He's not shy about those kind of things.
Ask Alpine.
And I know we talked about it before the podcast. We say he's probably gone anyway.
I think he is. Right?
Yeah. But Zach is hoping for the best and trying to make that work, because that what works best for the team is to have those two guys in. Everyone, I was very happy for Piastri for his showing.
Me too.
Upset it didn't come. It came a day late and $1 short at this point in the championship, but I'm glad he's got something back, and at least he still has an outside chance of still winning the championship. And but I guess I don't understand why he's been so far out there. But he's back, so that's positive.
Yeah.
So what do you do? The mistake was made. It was a massive error. It shouldn't happen at that level. It doesn't happen at our level. As I said, because you have those predetermined, very crucial points in a race for strategy for pit stops. And
especially, to your point, especially because they were mandated. Yeah. So they already had fences put around their strategy. Yeah. And so they knew 0 to 25, 25 to 50, right? Anything that happens before 25 laps, we box. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be, like you said, over 8 or 10 laps, you box. And the math worked out perfectly at lap 7. But I'm just not sure. I guess, like I said, I would probably favor the guy leading the championship because you're down just 2 races left. Right. Would I have favored Lando over Oscar or vice versa midsummer? No, of course not. I think Zach was letting him run, but at that point they were all okay. Just don't touch anybody. We got to get the constructor championship. I get it. Yeah. And if I'm Zach, I'm doing the same thing. Or if I'm Andre, I'm saying the same thing. Just get the constructors championship, and then we'll let them race. And so kudos for Zach and team for trying to do that. But I think also.
Right. It does put them in jeopardy, and
it does. It does,
and I think,
and they're okay with that.
Yeah, they're evidently.
The team is. I guarantee you, Oscar and Lando's not.
Yeah. Well, Lando definitely isn't because he's the one that's going to get the positive side of it if they made that choice.
And here's the other thing about the whole papaya rule nonsense. That, this is coming from a Ferrari fan, so I have no issue with team orders, right?
No, you don't.
It's all about winning titles, baby. And so the point of the papaya rules is you're right, Paul. Zach wants to keep both drivers happy, let them race, let them run, no favoritism and that kind of thing. But just the pressure, like remember when Oscar wasn't performing, all the pressure about their favorite Lando and he's got better kit and all this stuff, right? Then you get to the point where if Lando loses the championship, he doesn't want to lose Oscar. He wants to keep him. Right. I suspect Mark Webber will advise Oscar to figure out which team's going to be very competitive and go there because they will favor Oscar there. Right. And I also think that if they don't win the championship here, I think Lando is going to be really ticked off and I could see him leaving too. So you run the risk of losing one or the other, I think.
Yeah, I don't see Lando losing, but I understand. I think if they lose the championship, I think anyway, both drivers are going to look at how they run a championship run very differently next year.
Yeah, I think
very differently.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be as complicit. I think, if certainly if they lose the championship, they're going to be like, hell no.
Hell no.
Hell no, I'm not pulling over because I had a slow pit stop, or hell no this, or hell no that, right? All these points. They're going through race by race of where they complied with team orders and counting those points, and where would we be now without that?
Yeah,
where would I be now without that?
Without that, yeah.
Yeah,
because
I
that's
think
not
McLaren.
lost. The driver is effectively a subcontractor. They're a 1099 employee, right? They're there to win drivers' championships, and this is the best shot both those young men have, right?
Yeah.
At least
because we don't know what next year is going to be held, right?
That we know. This could be.
They could be at the
only
back
chance.
of the pack next year because they focus so much on the past few years,
right?
But I think McLaren also had the feeling that they had such a dominant car that they could come back from anything in this race, and they couldn't.
Yeah, and that leads me into my notes about Oscar. Let's talk about him real quick. He had a good start, was leading from pole, drove a great race, but lacked the sheer pace to cover a free pit stop that Max had, to your point, Paul. Ends up finishing in P2. McLaren banked, I think, on higher degradation. So that staying out on the first stint and then attacking later would pay off. I think that's what they thought. The problem is only there was a small pace difference between the compounds. So even if the pace delta between compounds wasn't that great, I think they felt that whatever delta there was, plus the high degradation, plus a high-speed corner track like this flattering their chassis, I think they probably felt that they had plenty of pace in hand, and the Red Bull was really on its back foot, and they felt like, we'll just outrun him. And if he is in front, we'll run him down and pass him because he'll have degradation.
Yeah.
We've got a faster car, that kind of thing. And I kind of feel like, with all deference to the team, I know everybody's beating the crap out of him, but I kind of feel like that's what they were possibly thinking. And even after making the wrong call on lap 7, I thought, oh my gosh, they just kept both of them out. Max and everybody, including Lance, everybody dove into the pits. And I thought, okay, but at least to minimize the damage, embrace that offset. Maybe they pit immediately once it was clear everyone else had stopped. And, it's not a totally free pit stop, but at least you minimize that and you're in the same strategy tree as Max.
They'd lose all track position. They can't.
Yeah, they would have.
They couldn't do that.
But I don't know. You shrink. I feel like I don't know. Instead of trying to stretch that first stint, if they'd have boxed on the back end of that lap, that still costs more than a safety car stop, right?
Yeah,
but you shrink the
Verstappen
free stop advantage.
No, I think they'd lose so much track position that they would be. Yeah, I think it wouldn't help.
Yeah,
I think once they made that mistake, I think the best thing to do was what they did, and they stayed out and they got. And Piastri actually was able to put enough space that he wasn't actually stuck behind other people. He was, he came out ahead enough. Lando, unfortunately, lacked a little pace in that first stint and lost just enough to put himself behind some other cars. So, and that ultimately was his demise and why he couldn't even make it on the podium. So I think that was the best scenario after that to try and make that gap. I think maybe they thought the gap would be larger. And I was surprised, as said, that they didn't try to be a bit more aggressive with Oscar with the softs.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't listen the whole time to what the conversations were about what tire. Maybe they knew more than I do about it, but you would have I thought Oscar lower fuel on softs might have been able to do it. As soon as they went to hards, I was like,
yeah,
because I think we were talking back and forth. I think you were like, I don't think you were saying I don't think they can get him, and I was like, well, I think Oscar can.
Yeah,
it just depends on tire choice, and then the tire choice went to hards, and I was like, okay, game over, pretty much.
I wasn't sure they would get him. I feel like whether they stacked box Lando, boxed Oscar, boxed in the lap 7. Ultimately, they got the downsides of all the strategies and the upsides of none of them, really, is how that all kind of parsed out. Andrea Stella said, today's result is a huge disappointment and there's no point in hiding it. We had the potential to win and to have both drivers on the podium, but we made an error of judgment during the safety car period and paid dearly for it. Today we had the fastest car and the drivers did a great job, but as a team we didn't deliver for them. And end quote. Yeah. I think that's true.
But that's what I had the difficulty with. We made an error in judgment during the safety car, as I said. That decision should have been made before the race started. You don't make the decision during the safety car.
Yeah,
you execute the decision you've made before the week. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like that's 2 races now on the trot that the team's fallen down, with skid blocks in Vegas with DNFs. And now the strategy call, they're not mistakes that a team at the sharp end of a championship has much room to make, No. I said, they weren't conservative enough with the ride height at the first race, which other teams obviously made the right decisions on how they did, because none of them had the same issue, and now they were too conservative with their other choices. So it's at the top, man. I mean, It's not coming from a guy back there with a laptop, it's coming from the top. Yeah.
And so they do need to be held accountable for it.
Yeah. That's why my jury's been out on Andrea, but I know he's a great guy and Zach loves him, but there's a reason he got bounced around team to team. Let's talk about Williams. Alex Albon P11, Carlos Sainz P3. Alex started on the hards, boxed during the safety car, got caught up in the Alonso DRS train, as many did, and was really unable to make any progress from there. I think they were hoping for a little longer run on those hards for sure, and perhaps on those hards, once it got in the window. Like Max didn't have a lot of degradation of the hards, and maybe Williams knew that from their running on Friday, that maybe the hard would pay a little dividend starting on it, but who knows. But anyway, lap 7 came out and opened the window, so they took it. Then he got in DRS train and ended up in P11.
Yeah, it's difficult for Albon, real difficult.
It is.
He's definitely a good driver, very strong, and he's been the champion for Williams for a while, and Coles has come in and he's getting the top-notch results.
I was saying that a couple of weeks ago. I was saying, I don't know, man. I think Alex, the shine must be rubbing off now that Carlos is delivering.
Absolutely must be. Albon probably can't get to next year soon enough. But definitely a surprise, and definitely, you always get compared to your teammate, and
you do,
and so you may be on an upward trajectory, and all of a sudden you get matched with a teammate who takes some of that off, and all of a sudden you're not the golden boy anymore.
Yeah, it's so true. You think
your parking space moves a little further away from the front door.
Yeah. You got to go get your own coffee.
Exactly.
When you think about it, look, McLaren might be an example, right? Lando's the golden boy, been there a long time. Alonso was there, and then Danny Rick was there, and still Lando's the guy.
Right.
And that's great. And then Oscar comes in and is like, oh, wait a minute, this kid can race,
Yeah, right.
So all of a sudden, we got to be equitable here. We're papaya rules, all that stuff came out. Let's talk about Carlos. He had a great race.
Who gets a penalty?
Not you. No, not you,
Carlos. No way.
You did well. He had a great weekend, Paul. Good qualifying. Even better start, jumping all the way up to 5th place. He stopped on lap 7, like all right thinking people would do. It's what most of the teams call the correct strategy. And that got him out in front of Antonelli. And I think that was kind of key, That was key, yeah. Very key to get out in front of Antonelli, because Antonelli looked really good. And we'll get to Kimi in a minute, but, that was a key moment for him in a podium. Even cycling through all of the stops, he was quick and even had Norris behind him after the McLaren stopped. And despite some car damage, he managed to secure that second podium, keeping Norris behind him. And just a fabulous race. He said, quote, I saw Piastri struggling to overtake me on fresh tires, and at that moment I realized we had to go for the podium. I was pushing to the limit of the car, but 6 laps to the end, something suddenly broke. I started losing a lot of lap time in sectors 1 and 3, but I managed to keep it together and bring it home in P3. It was just a fantastic result for Carlos.
It really was. He's a smart guy, right? He's just one of those smart drivers who sees the race. He analyzes other cars very well. He makes decisions for his own car just based on how tires are working on other cars. So, and that's kind of what leapfrogging him in that position. As you said, I mean, getting ahead of Antonelli was key, but getting ahead of Alonso was keyer.
Yeah, right.
Because you didn't want to, once you're stuck in the train, you're stuck in the train. So, anyone ahead of Alonso was able to really separate themselves and pretty much lock in the top 6.
Yeah.
And then after that point, Carlos, as you say, did the job in all the stints on all the tires and managed to hold off. Especially, I bet he was driving his ass off when that car started losing that grip in the left-handers, right?
Yeah.
So he did a phenomenal job and fully deserved the accolades he got after the race.
Yeah, he did. It was a great job. James Vowles, I know, is just elated, as he should be.
Yeah.
A great run from him. Mercedes, George Russell, P6, Kimi Antonelli, P5. George, we'll start with him. Had a bad start, lost a few positions, dropped him behind Sainz and Alonso, and that was always difficult. That was going to be difficult for sure. He got held up in pit lane traffic during his stop. And he inherited P6 when Hadjar had that late race puncture. And so not a great race for him. And if I'm honest, a little uncharacteristic of George. It just seemed like he couldn't get that car hooked up over the weekend.
Yeah, I think that he qualified well for the sprint, right?
He did for the sprint.
Pace. Yeah, there was pace in the car.
Yeah. I wonder if they tried an aggressive setup change that didn't just work for him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, I think the start was crucial for everybody, either positives and negatives. And I think getting stuck behind Alonso was devastating to his whole race.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, because everyone's kind of on the same pattern of pit stops, you do put yourself in jeopardy of being stuck in getting your car released out of the box, and you can lose a lot of time with that, and he did. So that was really unfortunate.
Yeah, I think you're right. George said, quote, I lost several positions on the opening lap, unfortunately, and that compromised my race. He said the inside of the track where I was starting from was lower grip. That hurt me in the first few corners. I got caught out at turn 2, lost the rear, and then dropped another position. And then our first stop, we had to wait in the fast lane to clear for him to go out. He got stuck in traffic. And so from that start until lap 7, that kind of put paid to his race.
Yeah. I mean, in IMSA, we have lots of pit stops and everything. And there's always a key thing is to try and keep that pit lane open. Because if everyone's coming in, all kinds of stuff goes on, and you can lose massive amounts of time and track position just in a split second of when the cars can be released or when it can't.
Yeah. Kimi had a good start running up in 4th early on, lost out to Sainz during the stack stop on lap 7, but managed to stay in 4th. Unfortunately, he lost the back end of the car while he was trying to hold off Norris, and this dropped him to P5. And then he got all of this online nastiness. He gotten about comments from Red Bull and how he helped Lando and all that stuff by letting him by. It was really unfortunate and completely uncalled for. And it just the first thing it reminded me of was Timo Glock in Brazil.
Yeah,
but it's unfortunate.
It is, and it's because everyone likes to react so quick and don't do their homework. Mm-hmm. And initially, I was like, "Wow, Kimi!" Because I still don't understand why he allowed Oscar through so easily. Because once the pit stop fiasco had happened, Kimi, you're racing these guys. I don't know why he would let Oscar by so easily. He didn't even cover the inside. That was weird.
Yeah, Oscar just
still don't
dove right down the inside.
Yeah, and Kimi was all the way out. I don't know if he wasn't expecting. I don't know what was happening.
Yeah.
And then, the Norris thing you could see. And it even happened to the McLaren guys once each. where the rear end just kind of snapped.
Yeah.
And then you just try to gather the car up at that point, and it just happened in that push to hold Norris off. He just overextended that in that corner, and that's what happened. But it did look a little weird from the outside looking in. But people need to do their homework before they start throwing spears at people, right? I mean, really, it's just like I was like, well, I'm going to just reserve my judgment till I ride along with Kimi and see what actually happened. And I did that, was in the car with Norris and so I think it was just an error. It was a racecraft error with Piastri not to cover the inside, but it was just literally a car error, driving error that allowed Lando to go by.
Yeah. And, look, he's a rookie, folks.
He's 19 for crying out loud.
He finished ahead of his teammate, who's a veteran, right?
Yeah.
The last couple of races, he's been doing a great job, and Toto was all kind of negative about all the mistakes they made and everything. I think those were maybe a little more pointed to George than
I think
Kimi,
so.
but it's a good result for Kimi nonetheless. He didn't deserve that for sure.
Definitely didn't, and I don't think he deserved any barrage of insults from outside or inside the team for that drive.
No, it was silly for Helmut to say that. Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso P7, and then we had Lance. He was in a different category, Paul. He was a DNF, see? Totally different category. Fernando had a good start. To his credit, he was still running 6 after the stops, which I thought was pretty impressive given the car, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was doing some pretty magic things in a car that really had zero interest in being there this weekend. He was in complete tire management mode, though. And when Fernando gets in tire management mode, he might as well be 80 feet wide. He's the man. Oh my gosh, and he became the ultimate DRS train, held the entire field behind him because he's up there running my race. I'm running my race. I'm managing my tires. Nobody's getting around me. And it's just,
get behind me, Satan.
Yeah,
the rest
exactly.
Of you guys.
Yeah. But then he had that spin. So he had all those cars behind him. Then he had that unforced error, right? And spun. And he lost 2 spots because of that, finished down in P7.
Yeah, that was a crazy spin.
It was.
I mean, geez, these cars, you sneeze at them, they got car damage,
I know.
But I was surprised he didn't damage the tires so that he couldn't continue or had to box 4 to fix that issue. But yeah, luckily the spin wasn't detrimental, and he actually still came out smelling kind of like roses.
Yeah, he did.
And certainly for that team where they are right now for this season and how they're, really pretty much writing the season off to get points is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Lance, he boxed on lap 7, then came in again a few laps later, and then he got a penalty for speeding pit lane, and then after 4 stops, they just decided to park him. And that's what they did.
He grew tired of the driving.
Yes. I don't want to do this anymore. Is the season over yet?
Yeah. Well, he did do what I was hoping. It was just like anyone that pitted at that first stop, but there was, we still had a couple of laps extra to. Yeah. He came in again, and then he put the softs on, but the speeding pit lane kind of neutralized any advantage he was trying to gain out of that. So.
Lance on softs those softs were so much quicker that he sped. So let's see. Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, P8, Lewis Hamilton, P12. Boy, it pains me to be a Ferrari fan and watch this weekend. This was miserable. Charles sunk like a stone at the start, dropping down to P11. Gained a couple spots back with the Gasly-Hulkenberg clash, and then again with Hadjar's cut tire. Otherwise, he wouldn't have seen the top 10, I don't think, which was brutal. And not to lump them both together, but there's just not much to talk about here. Lewis started on softs, gained position at the start, managed to get up to 12th. Then the DRS train ensnared him, and it's pretty much where he ended. And both of them were visibly frustrated with the weekend and audibly frustrated with the weekend. I'm sure John Elkann isn't real happy with their comments, but boy, that was brutal.
Yeah, it was tough. The car just didn't suit the track. Lewis obviously is very unmotivated right now overall.
Yeah, very.
And it was just a really disastrous weekend for him performance wise. Even though the car isn't great, you still got to measure him up against what Leclerc was doing, and still pretty far behind that. So
yeah, it was.
They probably both went to a hypnotist to try and erase all memory of this weekend, because that's what I'd want to do.
Yeah, yeah. Losing is an illness. Yeah, they stacked the stops, and Lewis lost a couple places through the stack, and comedy of errors. Bad race for Ferrari. Let's see, racing was Liam Lawson P9, Isaac Hedger DNF. Liam, for most part of the day, was a nice, pliable cog in the DRS train of Alonso. For much of the race, and then he inherited P9 with Hedger. So when his teammate retired, he inherited a spot up to P9. But there wasn't really much to talk about. He said it's positive come away with the race from the race with points after where we started. We had a really strong pace, and when we were in clean air, but then spent the majority of the time, majority of the race in traffic. So,
yep, pretty much.
That's pretty much it.
Everyone's story behind Alonso, I think, pretty much. I mean, that Alonso train was pretty damn long.
I know it was.
It was like, holy cow! Everyone was within half a second. Just lap off.
They're just snaking through the whole thing, that whole train. It was pretty funny. Yep. Isaac had a slow start, lost a few spots before settling in, running about 8th. He jumped Russell during the pit stop, took advantage of Alonso's spin to rid himself of the DRS train, and was running up into P6. So Isaac was having a really good race going here. Looked really good with 2 laps to go, got a puncture in that front left and ended his race. So brutal way. I'd hate to hear what he was saying to the team over the radio when that happened. It's probably all the team's fault, but
probably.
Yeah.
But certainly not his.
No, but otherwise would have been a good race for him.
Yeah, no, I mean his performances have been stout, and that was another one for sure. Yeah,
yeah, it really was.
Lawson's no slouch, and Hadjar seems to definitely have his number.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see, Sauber, Gabriel Bortoleto P13, Nico Hulkenberg DNF. Gabby had that 5-place grid penalty to start, Paul, so he was always going to be on the back foot here. But he made it back up to P13, which if you consider all things considered, and it's a Sauber, and probably this track didn't like him much, I don't know. Nico seemed pretty handy out there. So he did work his way all the way from the back all the way up to P13. And I think given the circumstance, not a bad run for him. But he made a point of saying, I was stuck behind Lewis the whole race. I was stuck behind old 7-time the whole race.
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, he would have been more than happy to mention that now, Lewis.
Right.
What's this guy in the Ferrari doing? Get him out of my way.
Somebody get the old guy out of the way.
Yeah, he's still got his turn signal on too.
Right. Yeah. He's going around the world to the left. Oh, boy. So anyway, that was good. Nico, bad deal for him. Start on the softs, and I think they were playing dividends where they didn't really work as well for Lewis, but I think they were for Nico. Had a lot of grip. It was able to make a pass attempt on Gasly. The two collided into his race. He said everyone who finished ahead. Oh, that's an old quote. Sorry, I didn't get Nico's quote. How'd you see that clash? I think the stewards deemed it basically a racing incident, but
I think it was just a racing incident. But I'm surprised they didn't call anything.
Yeah, right.
They call everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just a slight misjudgment from both drivers, I guess.
Yeah.
Hulkenberg's trying to stay as tight as he can, so he gets a better shot off the corner, and Gasly doesn't want to, just lay over and die and let Hulkenberg run through, so he's going to run him out tight. So I think it was just a slight. I mean, it was barely a touch, but it was a touch that obviously had a big ramification.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Gasly, Alpine P16, he didn't DNF. He completed the race, but as you mentioned earlier, Paul, he had damage to his car. Franco Colapinto down in P14. Let's see. Pierre was running in the top 10 early on, clashed with Hülkenberg. That dropped him to last. He had car damage, managed to work back up to P6, and we kind of already covered his race. But Franco, he started on the hards like Alex too, and he started the pit lane, so he's at the very, very back, and I'm sure he would have liked to have ran those hards for 25
right.
and take advantage of it.
The choice, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure he wanted to do that to try to run long, but ended up in an uneventful P14.
Yep. Pretty much. Gasly can somehow pull something out, but obviously, I think he was fairly decent here, actually. But I think he got a couple of altercations which pretty much scuppered his whole race. And as you say, Colapinto, that strategy had to see out, some full lap running without a safety car intervention. And so once that happened, it just kind of took any advantage and put him at a disadvantage at that point for the rest of the race. Yeah,
next is the Bummer Award for Haas. You had Esteban Ocon at P15, Ali Behrman at DNF. Let's cover Esteban first. He made the same mistake as McLaren. He stayed out on lap 7.
Yeah, because he started on the hards too, I think.
Yeah. And
then they second-guessed that.
Yeah, they did. And the team realized that everybody boxed, so they boxed him on the next lap, which dropped him to last. And then he also got a time penalty for a false start. And here's what he had to say about that quote. I don't really have words for the penalty. I don't know where that's come from. I've done over 100 starts, and I've always done the same procedure. It killed our whole race. And when we had to serve a double penalty and then being on the wrong tire, that was the end of our race, really.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think they pitted him the second time? Or pitted him in the end just so he could serve that penalty under the full course yellow? I think that's what he did, right?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
So the penalty was, maybe it changed their strategy, but I
would have.
Yeah, but as I said, like when you were saying, well, McLaren should have pitted him on the next lap. I think that's exactly where they would have ended up.
Could have
further ahead than Ocon, but
they'd have been the
best way to go.
Yeah, a lot further ahead and on the same strategy as Max.
Yeah.
And had they had the sheer pace, then they'd at least give him a fighting chance to get back up in amongst it. It was my thinking. The Bummer Award goes to Ali, man. He had a terrific start, Paul, running in the points. Looked like it's going to be another good race for him. But the team had an issue. It looked like he was released early and the rear jack was still engaged, and it damaged his car. And they also gave him a 10-second penalty for an unsafe release. Yeah. And after serving the penalty, apparently it was, bunged up enough to retire the car. It's a shame because I think he had a shot at some points here. Ollie looked great. Yeah,
no, he did. He had good pace, but the turmoil in the pit lane can go against you.
Yeah,
absolutely. They probably went against the rear jack man there or whatever. Man, he was banging on that steering wheel. Those things are expensive.
Oh yeah, he was. He was mad, wasn't he?
He was mad as hell. He didn't want to take it anymore.
That's right. Yeah, he was not happy. I don't blame him. Because I think he had a points run going or a good shot at it.
Yeah,
and it didn't pan out for him, so I don't blame him. Well, that's what we think of the teams and drivers, how they finished. But we always hand out a few awards. Paul and I like to do that. Awards are kind of fun for us.
Yeah.
Seriously, Todd?
Yes, seriously. Even when the race is
Mass hysteria!
We hand out awards. That's what we do. The first award is...
Drivers just waiting for their email on Monday.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Did I get something?
Did I get an award?
Carlos, I know. Carlos is waiting.
What's TPF going to be? Move of the race, Paul, what'd you have?
Well, it's a negative move on the race, but it's got to be the McLaren call, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That was a move that definitely changed the whole complexion of the race. Positively for Red Bull, negatively for McLaren.
Sure did. That means the next award is heading in the same direction, I think, Paul.
We'll do it live!
Donkey of the race. Who'd you have for Donkey of the race?
I mean, what can you say? Papaya rules.
Papaya rules,
doesn't.
baby!
Yeah.
Keep it
Well,
up.
It doesn't sometimes.
Max is like, yeah, I'm all
It's making
for
life interesting,
my
that's
rules.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. A lot of the criticism, Paul, how much of this, a lot of the criticism of McLaren's strategy that I see online regarding papaya rules and those kind of things, a lot of that criticism is that their fear of favoring, when Oscar went by and Max dove in, they should have boxed Lando because he was following Max and covered Max.
Right.
But their fear that would favor Lando over Oscar is what prevented them from doing it.
Yeah. Maybe they just literally missed the mark completely. But yes, that's ultimately what you should be talking to the other driver about. What he does.
That's the allegation. That's what people are like.
Yeah. And I think that's absolutely correct.
Yeah, they're saying, if you didn't have silly papaya rules, you'd have boxed Lando as you should have done. He's leading the championship. He should have been covering whatever the hell Max did because that's his nearest opponent. And he should have boxed and he'd had a good shot at winning. So
it's the overall coverage of the strategy. At this point, once the championship was won for the manufacturers, they should just let those teams call their own strategy and just react as you would if you're an individual car. That's what they should have done.
Yeah, let each side of the garage go to war with each other.
Yeah, that's your guy. You want him to win the world championship.
Right.
You call your strategy the way you want it.
Right.
You do the same on the other side of the garage, and let's just not talk amongst yourselves anymore.
No.
You don't want to cause waves and make everyone angry, but everyone wants to have the best sporting chance to win a championship.
But
and
see,
you
that's
don't
not
want it to be with your handcuffs on.
But that's not Andres running up to Mark Webber. Okay, here's the setup for Lando, and this is what we're doing with Lando.
Yeah.
So it's total transparency, so everybody knows. It's kind of like if one side of the garage has a cheeky idea that gives them an advantage, they should be able to do it.
They should. They should.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. Let's see. That leaves one more award, and that's usually reserved for Drive of the Race. Oh, yeah.
You like my bass? You like it?
We do, Sergio. You and I, we're in total sync on our awards.
We are, but I'm going to actually switch it.
Whoa! Who are you picking?
I'm picking Oscar.
Okay.
Because I think he drove impeccably the whole weekend.
Yeah, you're true.
He drove a perfect weekend. The team didn't call a perfect strategy, but he drove.
It wasn't his fault.
And to come from where he came from the past few races, I think that was a really big step and just a dominant weekend. Should have been 25 points in the bag.
Yeah, right? That's a good shout. I had Carlos. I thought Carlos had a great race. But that's a good shot for Oscar. Let's see. Oh, we do have some mailbag, Paul.
Ooh.
You've got mail.
Yeah, our friend Peter asked, it seems to me that McLaren, this is after Las Vegas, seems to me that McLaren had made a mistake thinking they were in a Cineprost era and could afford not to prioritize driver 1 and 2. In a commercial sense, the championship winning profile is publicly seen as the first winning most driver and the second winning most driver. Constructor titles are good for selling cars, but F1 is all about the sponsorship association with branding. If McLaren loses the Drivers' Championship, branding will take a huge hit. There you go. What do you think, Paul?
Well, I mean, we've kind of talked back and forth about that whole thing, right? I mean, it's like, I don't know, but should they have a rule that within the last 3 races, if someone's in the lead of the championship or if we're under threat from somebody else, then we back one driver versus another? It's just something you need to talk about at the beginning of the season, not keep changing these rules and massaging them along, because then no one really knows where they stand, right?
Do you remember all the way back to the early part of this when the incident happened and the media caught wind of this thing called papaya rules, and you and I were discussing it, and I said, well, yeah, you and I have been watching F1 way too long to hear these glorious,
equality.
We're just going to treat them. We're going to let them race and all these glorious things. Remember, I said all the way back then, Yeah, I've heard all this crap before, and this is all a noble charter by anyone's measure. But at the end of the year, either we're going to say, wow, Zach really figured out how to do it impeccably, and he's revolutionized the sport on how to have no preference over drivers or anything like that, or they're going to have egg on their face. So
yeah, well, we'll find out in a few days.
Yeah, we will find out in a few days. But so far, he's getting a lot of egg on his face. He's got to watch himself here. But, for me, even from the team, obviously Constructors Championship has to come. And then you want to, like you said, you get this late in the season. You've got a horse in the lead that had a 20-plus point lead in the championship.
Yeah.
You want both titles if you're the team,
Yeah, maybe as soon as Oscar wasn't in second.
Yeah,
right.
Once
Max jumped him, that's when there's all kinds of different ways to make it, but I think we kind of made a point as to why that didn't happen.
Yeah, right. Papaya rule. All right, well, that does it. And as Paul mentioned, just a few days from now, we will know who the world champion is. And it'll be in Abu Dhabi this weekend. It's going to be exciting to see how this unfolds. But we will be back next weekend. A huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. We could not and would not do this podcast without you. So thank you very much for your support. If you like the podcast, tell a friend about it. Share it. Spread it on social media. If you watch it, just right down below, just hit the bell icon, the like, the follow.
Maybe put a little note in those Christmas cards.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas to you and the family.
I mean,
check this out.
It's not asking to do much. Just, put a little note in the Christmas card and say, here, the family, we had a great year, and here's our Christmas letter. And, oh, by the way, you should check out the part for me. That's a great idea. Why not?
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't cost you.
Change it up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Paul. Well, until next week, when we come back and we close out this season, and I can't wait to hear what Paul has to say about the final race.
Ooh.
It's going to be exciting. I know, me neither. So until that time next week, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camper, saying so long.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain type of car.